Thanks to Bilgi for hosting this and to Tolga Tuzin for making it all possible. And welcome. Nice to see you all here virtually online. I would like to talk today about actually quite many things pertaining to rhythm in music, some pretty specific things. I will also try to give you an overview of the way that by now pretty many people here in this scene are talking and thinking about rhythm, which is loosely based and or inspired by the conical system from Indian music. And I'm saying inspired because we don't use we don't attempt to play Indian music. We're just using a language which is inspired by the rhythmical language of India. Yeah, just to say a few words about what I do. I'm, as Dennis said, a saxophonist and bass clarinetist and also composer. I studied at the conservatory in Amsterdam. I have a background in jazz and improvised music, but also in composed music. As a composer, I'm kind of in between those two worlds and trying to bridge them. Something that I find very interesting is to use meticulously composed structures together with improvisation, or if you would see it from the other way around, I'd like to use improvising techniques in the interpretation of composed material. Okay. First of all, I would like to show you a video. Maybe you've seen it already because it's been quite popular on YouTube. It's a video by percussionist from South India, from Bangalore. His name is BC Manjunath, and he's posted a great many YouTube videos talking about his rhythmic ideas, and in this video he works together with Vari Jashri, who is a singer also in Carnatic music, South Indian classical music, but who also does quite a lot of crossover projects. Let's just check this out. I will share my screen with you, share the sound as well, and please let me know if you cannot hear it right or anything like that. Let's see where it is. I have to quickly look for it. Here we go.
Three, four.
Whoops. That was a bit fast. Just 1 second. Okay. Going back to Zoom, share. Here it is. All right. So you should be able to see this. Go back to the beginning. Here we go.
3, 4.
Ke 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 to ta ti gi na tum ta ti gi na tum ta ti gi na tum ta ti gi na tum
ta
ta
ti
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
taka taka di na tom
taka taka di na tam taka
taka taka
taka
di
di
na
na tam
tom taka di na tom
taka di na tam taka
taka
di
di
na
na tom
tam
taka di na tom
taka di na tam
taka
taka
di
di
na
na
tom
tam
takita tom
takita tam
takita
wakita
tom
tam
taka tom
taka tam taka
taka tom
tam
ta tom
ta tam
ta
ta
tom
tam
tom
tam tam
tom ta tim ta
ta
ti gi
digi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
tim
tim
ta
ta
ti gi
digi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
tim
tim
ta
ta
ti gi
digi
na
na
tum
tum
tom
tam
tom
tam
tom ta
tam
tim ta
ta
ti gi
digi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
tim
tim
ta
ta
ti
digi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
tim
tim
ta
ta ti
digi
gi
na
na
tum
tum tom
tam
tom
tam
tom
tam ta
ta
tim
tim
ta
ta ti
digi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
tim
tim
ta
ta ti
digi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
tim
tim
ta
ta ti
digi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
taka taka di na tam
taka taka di na tom
ta taka di na tam
taka di na tom
taka di na tam
taka di na tom
takita tam
takita tom
taka tam
taka tom
ta tam
ta tom
tam
tom
ta
ta
di
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
di
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
di
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum tom
tam
tom
tam
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
ti
di
gi
gi na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
di
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum tom
tam
tom
tam ta
ta
di
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
di
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
ta
di
ti
gi
gi
na
na
tum
tum
ta
taka
ka ta
taka
ka
di
di na
na
tam
tom
ta ta
taka
ka di
di
na
na
tam
tom
ta ka
taka
di
di
na
na
tam
tom
ta ki ta
takita
tam
tom
ta ka
taka
tam
tom
ta
ta
tam
tom
tam
tom
ta ki
tarigada
dum
tom
ta ki
tarigada
dum
tom
ta ki
tarigada
dum
tom ta
tam ta ki
tarigada
dum
tom
ta ki
tarigada
dum
tom
ta ki
tarigada
dum
tom ta
tam
tarigada
ta
tom
ki
tarigada
dum
tom
ta ki
tarigada
dum
tom
tam
All right. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this.
Songwriting is tension and release.
Hope
You set up an
I have to
expectation.
switch this off. Okay, any comments? Any ideas about that? Anybody? No. Don't be shy. Well, anyways, I'll say something about why I chose this piece of music to play for you. Um, what I find, well, anyway, I really like the song. I find it's very catchy and at the same time very subtle and well performed. It's kind of loose, also. It's groovy. Um, what I also like is that in a lot of um, South Indian music, it can get very virtuosic and very like very many notes, very fast stuff, very complex stuff, which is of course, well, maybe not of course, but um, to non-Indian ears, I would say it's quite overwhelming. We whoever did not grow up with this music or really knows it very well can get pretty overwhelmed by it. And but this piece we just listened to, I find is um, um, it's not so much about impressing you with a lot of notes. It's so clear and it's yeah very clear structures. And to me, the appeal lies a lot um, in the layers, the clapping of their tala, the way uh, that they have in a certain part divided up this tala, so they're not doing the same thing at the same time. And I see a question from Denise. Yes, please.
It's more like a proposition than a question, but I mean, could you just give us a very brief walkthrough of how Konakol works for the uninitiated mostly? Like, I mean, is there some kind of a basic rule that leads musicians to what to do, how to build those rhythms, or is it just a true composed piece of like polyrhythmic music and so on? Just quick notes for everyone to be in the same place about
Yeah,
how to sing.
actually, I was. Thanks, Denise, for proposing this. Actually, the next thing I wanted to show you is a very basic outline of how how Konakol works on the most basic level. Yeah, we're gonna look into that. But to answer your other question, it is definitely a through composed piece. It's not improvised. It's and there's actually somebody posted an analysis of the piece online if you're interested to look into it. It's quite interesting because, as I said, they have invented their own tala for this piece, which is you could notate it as 75 sixteenths, which is kind of a weird time signature. But you could say there's a cycle of 75 notes, and that's an interesting concept, and I'll also get back to this idea a bit later on. Let's take a look at some of the Konakol basics, unless there's another question or comment coming up from any of you. Let me know. Let's see. Here we go. I'm gonna share this with you guys. Can everybody see this well?
Yep.
Okay. Super. All right. So, as you see, this sheet is talking about Konakol. It's also talking about tuplets and about groupings. And this concept of making a clear distinction between tuplets and groupings of notes is quite important. So if there's anything unclear about what I'm going to tell you now, please let me know so I can make sure that everybody can follow along. The tuplets are basically a very familiar concept for everybody, I guess. For example, we have triplets here in this first bar. We have 16th notes, or you could call them quadruplets, in this next bar. There's quintuplets in this bar. So the tuplets are actually denoting a certain number of evenly divided notes across a regular beat. So triplets would be 3, quadruplets would be 4, quintuplets would be 5, etc. I think this is pretty straightforward, and everybody of you actually knows this It's just maybe to use the term tuplet might be something that you are or you are not used to. Okay, so about the conical, you see that down here I wrote syllables, and I'm going to quickly scroll down this document. If you look here, the typical syllables for evenly divided triplets would be takita. So takita, 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 triplets, 3 notes per beat. And then for the 16th notes or the quadruplets would be takademi, 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 takademi. Quintuplets, takaginaton, 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 takaginaton. And the sextuplets, we could divide them into 2 times 3 as is done here, or 3 times 2 as is done here. So it would either be takita, 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 or it would be taka, 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 and so on. Same thing about the septuplets. This is a division of 4 plus 3, and here we have a subdivision of 3 plus 4. The important thing is that you don't really subdivide. You don't subdivide into 3 plus 4 as in a composite meter. You really try to make this arc of 7 notes. Takatimi, takata, takatimi, takata, takatimi, takata, takatimi, takata. So I'm really going from takatimi, takata, takatimi, takata, takatimi, takata, and so on. Or takata, takatimi, takata, takatimi, takata, takatimi, takata, takatimi, and so on. So that is, in short, some of the basics of how you could use conical inspired syllables as a way to make this tuplet concept or the grouping concept very audible, very very clear. Are there any questions up to here?
Would you mind sharing this with everyone in this room for anyone who wants to go deeper or even practice maybe these things? It seems like this document, I mean.
Definitely, I can send this. This might not be one of the documents I sent to Bilgi earlier on. Should I do it right now, Denise, or should I do it after the
Any way that suits you. I mean, before the meeting ends would be just fine.
Okay, super. I can just send it to you now. Let's see. Here we go. Stop sharing. Here we go. All right. So let's go back to this document. Right here. Okay, so I think the idea of tuplets and how to use the conical with it. I hope it's clear. Again, if not, please let me know. Let's take a look at groupings. So Groupings are really totally independent of tuplets. So what I've notated here in this line is triplets in groups of four notes, and that is the reason why I've beamed these first four notes together. As you see, they're beamed to really show visually that we're talking about a group of four notes here. And then there's and you also see that the syllables correspond. Normally, as I said before, if we talk about triplets, I would be going takita, takita. But here I wrote takedimi, so that shows that this is actually a different grouping. It's a grouping of four notes together. And next group starts here. And the third group starts here. And so why is this, why did I write this as a phrase of 4 beats? Because if you would repeat this bar, then the grouping and the tuplet would start again at the beginning of the bar. So what I'm doing is I'm playing or singing 4 times the tuplet and 3 times the grouping. So instead of going takita, 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 I'm going takadimi, 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 tak. And as you probably hear, I'm using the conical, I'm using the syllables to make those groupings super clear. You also notice that those groupings shift against the beat. Takadimi, 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 tak. This is where I come back. Let's just loop this bar for a while, and everybody join me in saying this phrase. Just make sure that you have your microphone switched off, otherwise I will be hearing strange things here on this side. Here we go. 3, 4. Takadimi, 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 tak. All right, I hope this was fun. When you if you find it helpful or fun to practice this, make sure that you figure out beforehand which syllables or which notes will fall on the beat. So you know that this ta will be on the beat and this mi will also be on the beat. You see also here, this is where this bracket starts, so it's quite easy to see. This D will be on the beat, and this ki will be on the beat. Takadimi. And of course, eventually, we don't want to emphasize the notes that fall on the beat. Otherwise, we kind of go against the idea of the grouping. The grouping is about phrasing as a group of 4 notes. Now, if we emphasize the note that falls on the beat, we're kind of going against that idea. But it's a good idea to start practicing this way. So it would be like takadimi, 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 takadimi. Then you know exactly, and you can check whether you're doing the right notes, the right syllables in the right place. Once you've got this, then you should start going ta, ta. So you emphasize each ta, and doing this, you really phrase the grouping. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah? All right. Nice. Cool. I see a thumb. Thanks. Great. Okay, let's look at this next example. Here, the tuplet is 4, so we're talking about 16th notes, or quadruplets, you could call them. These 16th notes are grouped in groups of 3. And what I wrote here, 16th notes, not triplets, I wrote because this kind of, if we see 3 notes beamed together like this, you could think, wait, this looks like triplets. Huh? I see, it's kind of an automatic thing, but no. The tuplet is 4, so we're talking about 16th notes here in groups of 3. Just in order not to get confused. So this would sound like 16th notes would be takademi, takademi. But now our grouping goes takita, 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 takita. Let's loop this also, and everybody join me in doing this. 3, 4. Takita, 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 ta. Okay. Now I would like you to do a little experiment with me. We do again what we did just now, but as we go along, we will start emphasizing each ta, each beginning of the grouping even more, and slowly, gradually, we will start doing. We will start leaving out the ki and the ta. So the second and the third note we will do more and more silently, right up to the point that we don't really pronounce them at all anymore. That we just keep them going internally, but we don't say them. Let's try that. 3, 4. Takita, 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 ta, 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 ta. Okay, so leaving out those ki and tas, what do we hear? What is it? Does anybody have an idea? How could we call this? Any ideas?
Well, it's 3 inside 4, isn't it? Nested in 4.
Yes.
Pa, 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 pa,
Exactly.
pa.
Yes. So actually, the 3 that we're hearing is the beat, and the 4 are the accents. Ta, 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 4 times in our cycle. Ta, 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 ke, di, mi, da, ke, di, mi, da. Okay, so that's actually something that is really interesting to know and to memorize and to use. That whenever you see polyrhythms notated, then you know that, for example, you see 7 against 4. Your first number denotes the tuplet that you use. So 7 against 4 would be septuplets. And the second number, so 7 against 4, the 4 denotes the grouping that you use. So if you want to do 7 against 4 really accurately, you should be doing septuplets in groups of 4, and you should pronounce only the first of each 4 notes of the grouping, and that will give you your polyrhythm. Actually, this process of constructing a polyrhythm, I've also noted down in another sheet, which I'll show to you. Which is this one. And I would like you to read it from the bottom up, as I have written further down there. So I would like you to start with line D down here. And what you see is 3 quarter notes, 3 beats. Let's say that these beats are, you set a metronome, and this is what you hear from the metronome. And then in line C, we have quintuplets. So our tuplet is 5. But these quintuplets are grouped into groups of 3. That's why these 3 notes are beamed together, and then the next grouping starts. And your bracket up here shows you where the beat is. So this note falls on the beat, this note falls on the beat, and this note falls on the beat. So as you see, they're right on top of those metronome notes, so you can neatly see that this all lines up. So quintuplets, take, ginaton, take, ginaton, take, ginaton, and so on, and we group them into 3. Would you go takita, 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 ta. So that's pretty straightforward. It's actually same thing that we did in the other 2 examples, but now we're in a different tuplet. Okay, and this line B here is what we did when we left out everything except the first note of the grouping. So ta, we leave out the kita, again ta, and so on. And this is what it will look like in conventional notation. 5 against 3 quarter notes. So we come from takita, 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 ta, 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 ge, i, na, don, ta, ge, i, na, don, ta. So why am I saying ta, ge, gi, na, ton now? It's because these are 5 notes And if I say take ginaton, I keep track of a group of 5 notes. So actually this is becoming a phrase of 5 notes, and my take ginaton will make it really clear that this is the case. And of course, somebody else could be doing the metronome beat. So what I was snapping my fingers to, and this person would be going ta, ki, ta. So that will also be possible. Okay, if we look at the topmost line here, now this is new. This is what we could call resultant rhythm. It's these notes of our polyrhythm. This is the same as this. This is the same as this. But then you have this one, and this I added the note of the metronome down here, or the beat, you could say. I added up here. This note is this one. This note is this one, and then again, this is the third beat, same as this note, and this is the last of the 5 against 3. So I will explain why this is useful to do, but let's first see what it sounds like. It would be sounding like ta ta ka ta ta ka ta 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 ka ta ta ka ta ta. So I'm snapping the metronome beat, and I'm actually pronouncing each of those notes up here. Ta ta ka ta ta ka ta 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 ka ta ta ka ta ta. Why don't you do this along with me? We will loop it for a while. Here we go. 3, 4. Ta 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 ka ta 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 ka ta ta ka ta 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 ka ta ta ka ta 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 ka ta ta ka ta ta. Okay. Any questions up to here?
I couldn't do it.
It's maybe a matter of practice, step by step, and what also something that helps is if you use a metronome. So by using the metronome, you have something to hold on to when you keep the beat, or you could even leave out the snapping at all, not do that. I could quickly show you what I have this metronome here. Here we go. I liked using tempo 50. Da 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 taki 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 da 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 da. That's but okay, that's quite a bit of work to if you've never done it. Okay, so the one of the uses of this resultant rhythm is that if you memorize it, you can very easily perform a polyrhythm like 5 against 3 without having to do all these steps from the bottom up. Sometimes in the musical situation, especially if the tempo is high, it's not really practical to start counting the quintuplets, as in line C, grouping them into three and then leaving out those two notes. That's kind of a detour. If you have to, if the tempo is like dun, 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 if it gets faster, then it's really difficult to get there by these steps down here. It's much better if you memorize this resultant rhythm, and then you can you by knowing where the beat falls and where the notes of your polyrhythm are, you really have a good sense of whether you're performing it in the correct way and in the correct tempo. Okay, let me know if you haven't received this document. I will. It's everything I told you is also explained here. What we didn't talk about yet is this second page of the document. So if there's no questions up to here, I'd like to talk about that. I've said here the resultant rhythm 5 against 3/4 notes notated in a more friendly way. What I've done is, if you compare it to that top line here, you see those those rests where the kita is left out. This is ki and this is ta. So everywhere where it's not 5 against 3 or the beats, such as here, you see a rest. And what I've done down here is I've just notated the first note longer, so you don't see the rests anymore, and somehow this looks nicer to the eye, I think. Dun, 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 dun. And this way we also see very clearly what the length of each note is in this resultant rhythm. And that's interesting to check out. Let's take a look. The first note, if our unit is quintuplets, then you could say that this first note lasts 3 units, the second note lasts 2 units, the third note just 1 unit, and so on. So we get this structure down here: 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. That is our resultant rhythm, and it's a non-retrogradable structure, as using the term that Olivier Messiaen coined about these kind of rhythms. You could also say it's a palindrome. It's a structure that reads the same if you read it backwards. If you start here 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's the same. So you have in the middle you have a point where it's a sort of a middle point where it mirrors, you could say also. Actually, all resultant rhythms of simple polyrhythms have this palindromic structure, that can be interesting to check out what it means if you like to use it in composition. Okay. What I would like to take a look at now is this last line down here. We've seen that this cycle or maybe we haven't talked about it yet. Huh? How long is this cycle? It's 3 beats, and if we count the units, then we count 15 units. This whole thing is 15 units. So 3 beats and quintuplets, 3 times 5, we get 15. And that's why I'm saying here we could notate this resultant rhythm in 15/16ths, which is kind of a weird time signature, and I don't really recommend notating it in any music you write unless you really have to. But for the for compositional processes, it can be super useful because, well, first let's take a look at it, and then I'll tell you why I think it can be useful. This first bar down here is the same thing as this rhythm up here, this resultant rhythm, only now I've just used 16th notes and the time signature is 15/16. So still this would be the same structure: 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And here I've grouped the notes in groups of 3. This is a group of 3, this is a group of 3, but we can also group them in groups of 5. So this is a group of 5, this is a group of 5, and this last thing is a group of 5. So this actually leads us to the conclusion that as I'm saying down here, if you notated a polyrhythm of 3 against 5 and you notated in 15/16ths, the resultant rhythm will look and sound exactly the same. So if you go through this whole process, except that you choose as a tuplet, you choose triplets, and as a grouping, you choose quintuplets. Sorry, I should have not said that. As a grouping, you choose the groupings of 5. So triplets in groupings of 5, and you construct a resultant rhythm, and then you take this step towards just notating it as a cycle of 15 notes, for example, in 16ths. So 15/16ths, it will look exactly the same. And that's a pretty useful thing to keep in mind. And I will show you some more stuff that this will be handy to know for. But yeah, what we're actually doing here is we suspend the hierarchy of saying where we came from here is we were saying this is 5 against 3 quarter notes. So we say it's something against something, but we have a first number which is 5, and then we have a metronome doing those 3. That's where we came from. So there's a certain hierarchy. Yeah? So the 3 was the time signature that we were going in, and then you play 5 notes in the time of these 3 metronome beats. But what we're doing down here is we suspend this hierarchy, and we're saying, well, actually it's 5 against 3 or 3 against 5. It's just 2 different tempos which move along, and every 15 units they come out in the same place. So they form this cycle, but there's no longer a hierarchy of these two. They're kind of both equal in importance, and that's a concept to keep in mind. Any questions up to here, or any comments?
Well, actually, if I'm not mistaken, I don't really see the file in the chat, and now that I'm humbled by the fact that I couldn't do it, I'm even more eager to have the document to practice it a little bit afterwards.
This one, this document.
Yeah, this one. I think you said you sent it, but I don't know if there was a problem, but we don't have it here.
Okay. Sure. Why don't we take a short break of 5 minutes, and I will just prepare an email with these PDFs, send it to you, and we
Okay, if you don't really need it, we don't really have to do it. We can do it afterwards if we're going to do it via mail.
yeah.
I can send it
Oh,
to
okay.
everyone afterwards. There's no problem.
Okay, fine. Then I'll send it afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hope that that you're all still with me. Again, if there's something unclear, please let me know, because I'll be glad to explain. But if you're ready for it, I'll take you to a short tour to the world of resultant rhythms, because this is kind of the underlying theory, you could say, or so it's more like a way, it's a certain perspective to look at things. Okay, I just used this material yesterday in a seminar for the Bilkent University. So this document I'm going to share with you now is titled Bilkent. Don't blame me for it. I hope you have good relations with Bilkent University. So I guess you can all see this one. So this is actually pretty much the same thing as what I was talking about just a minute ago. This is the resultant rhythm: 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is how we could write it. Exactly the same as how it looked like in the previous document. And up here, I noted it a little bit differently. Here you can see the groupings of 3, and these X's here, those are the notes that we leave out, right? So so this is the group of 5. As I was saying, if you were using triplets in groups of 5, then you leave out all these, and you just pronounce these 3 notes, and here you pronounce 5 notes. So these 3 happen in the same time as these 5 happen in the same time as these 3 up here, and vice versa. And together they sound like this. Now what I'm going to do in the next page is I'm going to add another number. I'm going to add another grouping, I could say. I'm going to add the grouping of 4. And this has some major consequences. Let's take a look. Why did I write 60? Any ideas about that?
Because it has 16th notes inside it.
Yes, so what happens at the end of those 60 notes?
The pattern repeats.
Exactly. And with the pattern repeats, we could be even more explicit, saying that the pattern of a group of 5, a group of 3, and a group of 4 happening at the same time. At the end of the cycle of 60 notes, they will, again, at the beginning, all come together in the same place and not before. So what we're actually getting is a polyrhythm of 3 against 4 against 5. And if we now take a look at this line right here, this is the first one that we started out with, 3 against 5 or 5 against 3. Here's our cycle of 15 notes. I put a bracket so you could see that there's this one group down here, 3 2 1 3 1 2 3, and how many times does it need to happen in the cycle of 60? 4 times, right? 60 divided by 4. So here's the second one, this is the third one, and here's the fourth one. Okay, but now we also get 2 other proportions in this whole thing, because we added the grouping of 4. We also get a polyrhythm of 3 against 4 or 4 against 3. And you probably have noticed, you just multiply those 2 numbers and you get 12, and that's the length of the cycle of the 4 against 3 or 3 against 4. It's down here. Dong, 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 or dong, 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 wherever you want to. Which, if you want to do 3 against 4 or 4 against 3, which of course actually sound the same. This cycle of 12 we have to do 5 times in the big cycle of 60. So it's 1, here starting 2, this one is the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. And here's our resultant rhythm of 4 against 5. It's a cycle lasting 20 notes. And so on. And this cycle, this smaller cycle, is repeated 3 times in our longer cycle. Just to recapitulate, the first polyrhythm, of which had the length, the cycle length of 15, had to be repeated 4 times. This polyrhythm, cycle length of 12, had to be repeated 5 times. And the third polyrhythm had to repeat it 3 times. 3, 4, 5. Is that a coincidence that this corresponds with our grouping of 3, 4, and 5. Of course not. Actually, it's really logical. If you think longer about it, but it's very useful to just keep this in mind for a second. I will get back to it in a second. Let's first take a look at this giant resultant rhythm down here, because that's what I actually notated. We have a cycle of 60 notes, and we have this resultant rhythm, which at first sight looks kind of random, but actually it really is not random. Actually, you see where my cursor is here in the middle? That's where the mirror point is, or that's where it starts turning around. So you see that from this 2 on, you could also just read this backwards, and it would be exactly the same. So also this resultant rhythm is a palindrome, or a non-retrogradable structure, which can be useful to keep in mind. Okay, so just to expand on this a bit more, I've written some of the lines. I've written the last 1, 2, 3, 4 lines again. So this is this one here, this one, this, and here's our resultant rhythm that I've just talked about. But this is new. What is this? This is a big cycle of 60 notes. Oops, that was not intentional. Okay, this is a big cycle of 60 notes. Now what I've done is I have taken the 3 against 5 or 5 against 3 polyrhythm. Let's just take a look. This was a resultant rhythm 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. So what I've done here is I've taken the same resultant rhythm and I've multiplied all these numbers by 4. And why 4? Because 4 is my remaining number. Here I'm using 3 and 5, so I still have 4 left. So I'm multiplying these numbers by 4, so we get 12, 8, 4, 12, 4, 8, 12, which is actually the exact same structure as this resultant rhythm up here, except that every note is 4 times as long. So what I have down here is actually a resultant rhythm of 3 against 5 or 5 against 3, but it's elongated 4 times in order to cover this whole cycle of 60 notes. And the same principle I've applied down here. This was the resultant rhythm of 3 against 4 or 4 against 3. And I've multiplied all the numbers by 5 because this was my remaining number. So 15, 5, 10, 10, 5, 15. And this is what it looks like if you would notate it. And same thing down here. This is the 4 against 5 resultant rhythm, and all the numbers are multiplied by 3. And so why do I find this interesting or useful? And maybe here I have to take a step back and say that as an improviser and also as a composer, I've always been very interested in proportions. For example, especially in free improvised music, so-called free improvised music. This is something pretty important because if you start performing, if you start playing without any predefined rules or without any predefined plan or path, then in order to keep it the music interesting, it's pretty important to keep all kinds of proportions, musical proportions in mind. Durations of certain things, certain musical materials that are being played, but also proportions that are about dynamics, so soft, loud, about timbre, about all kinds of musical parameters, you could say. So that would be one thing. The other thing that, as a composer, it's also extremely important. For example, if you compose a piece, but you're not sure about the form of the whole thing, then I guess everybody who's composed knows this. Then you're in trouble because actually form is very important to the listener, even if the listener is not really consciously aware of or even analyzing the form, but still the form is very important. So these are reasons why I find this what I just told you about these resultant rhythms interesting. It is that you can use the same proportion in a micro way. So this 3 against 5, and it's pretty fast notes up here. And then you could use the same proportion down here, maybe as a different structuring element. For example, this resultant rhythm could define the movement of your harmony, while up here you have a melody going using this rhythmic structure. Just one of the many possibilities. And I believe that that if you have a strong connection between micro and macro structures, that will give music a lot of coherence, and that will give the listener a lot of it will give the listener a sense of following the same narrative or a coherent story in whatever you're telling in music. Okay. Any questions up to here?
Guess not.
No questions?
guess we're all trying to digest this slowly but surely.
Okay, good, good, nice. Um, cool. So maybe it would be a good idea to play some more music for you. Um, and I would like to play you some music from a recent composition of mine, um, which I wrote for the Amsterdam-based reed quintet Califax. And I also have to apologize because I would have loved to play you the recording of the premiere, which was scheduled for the beginning of January. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances that we all know what's going on, this performance was cancelled. And also a recording that was scheduled for February had to be cancelled. So I really wanted to share this piece with you. What I did is I made a MIDI simulation of the piece. And of course, it sounds awful, the MIDI sounds. So my apologies for that, but I hope that you enjoy listening to it. Anyways, I will also share the screen so you could follow the score a bit. I'm going to do that right now. Here we go. Is that possible to read, or should I make it bigger?
It's readable, I think.
It's readable?
Right,
Okay,
yes.
good. Maybe like this. Maybe that's better. Okay. So in the example that I just showed you before, as you remember, or you maybe remember, there was this cycle of 60 notes, and we had in the end we came up with 3 long polyrhythmic structures, which actually all took place once in the cycle of 60 notes. And that was made possible by using different polyrhythms, different resultant rhythms, and this is actually also what happens in this piece. So this line in the clarinet right here, it makes use of a resultant rhythm based on 21 and 34, and then in letter B the oboe enters, and this is based on a resultant rhythm of 13 and 21, and then a bit later on the soprano saxophone enters, and this is based on a resultant rhythm of 8 and 13. And these all share the same length of the cycle. Maybe there's somebody of you who says, wait a second, 8, 13, 21, 34. I know those numbers. Those are numbers from the Fibonacci series of numbers. Maybe somebody is familiar with this. It starts with 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So actually you always add the preceding number to the new number. So when you go from 3, you add the two. Oh, sorry, you add the yes, you add the two, so you get 5, and then you add the 3 to the 5, and you get 8, and you add the 5 to the 8, and you get 13, and so on. And the nice thing about this number series is that the resulting proportions, the more you go up in this number series, these proportions more and more approach the proportion of the golden mean. And the golden mean, it's something that has been used in the arts for centuries, and I find it a fascinating and useful proportion. Okay, so I'll play you this piece now. Here we go. I'll try to make the scrolling as smooth as possible. Please do let me know if you cannot hear it well. Let's see if I share the sound. I did share the sound. Yes. Here we go. Okay, until here, I guess. There's some parts now coming up which really are not possible to play back in MIDI. Could you? Was it possible to follow those 3 different lines and 3 different rhythms?
On a very intuitive level, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was hard to catch.
Hard to catch, you're saying?
Yes, it was hard to catch for me.
Okay, okay. Maybe it's also not easy to distinguish between the different instruments when you're hearing it online. Of course, I would have loved to play it live for you, but well, we have to make do with the possibilities that we have now. Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Anybody maybe has been busy with complex rhythms or other interesting musical ideas lately that he or she would want to share?
I have one comment and one question, if I may.
Yes. Mhm.
My comment is good luck with the premiere.
Thank you.
And the question is, I mean, is there any generative process for the pitch content similar to the rhythms or otherwise?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Maybe that was something that you might have noticed is that the pitches. I chose the pitches in a way that they would uh, reflect the rhythmic structure of the line, and that was on purpose, of course. Um, uh, it has to do with um, something that I've been exploring recently, which is that I I've started to think about rhythmic events in terms of frequency. So, for example, if we go back to this cycle of 15 notes that I was talking about, um, and you could, and we had notes that lasted 3 units. We had notes that lasted 2 units, and we had notes that lasted 1 unit. Um, you could you could you could interpret this, for example, this note lasting 3 units. You could say this note occurs 5 times in a cycle of 15, right? So so I could say, okay, this note has the frequency 5, and and a note that had the duration of 2 units, you could say this note has the frequency of 7.5, and a note lasting 1 unit would have the frequency of 15. So you could, through that, say, okay, I could map those frequencies to pitches, and see where that takes me. And that was well, that's a simplification of the process I applied in this piece. Does that make sense?
It does.
It does help to I mean, if it's if you really want to to go deeply into this subject, it helps, for example, to use a software like OpenMusic, which maybe you're familiar with, which is very helpful for frequency-based music. And this makes it, there's many possibilities to do all kinds of mapping processes and calculating processes. So that I can recommend checking that out. Okay, any other questions, comments? Looks like looks
I
like
have
not.
questions, but I've already talked too much.
Uh, I didn't talk much, but can I have a question about this rhythm and pitch relation? Because when I was I mean, when we were watching the score and listening to the music, I also realized that there was, also in that one, there was something similar with the ratios and the pitches and the rhythms. It was, I thought it like that, but then I also realized that if you directly, also after listening to your idea about kind of translating the rhythmical proportions into the frequential proportions, it actually, there comes the question that if you directly translate it, everything will be kind of microtonal. So you really have to go into microtonal performance. Then what would be your idea? So what would be the limit for this? Because I mean, microtonal performance is already something. I mean, it is quite everywhere now. But would you, what is your opinion on the limits of this? So for your performance or for anyone's performance, what is your general idea of it? I wonder.
Yeah, thanks for your question. In this piece for Halifax Reed Quintet, I chose deliberately to not write any microtonal notes at all, and that kind of had to do with what I know. What I know from them as what kind of ensemble it is, and it was not the sound that I had in mind for them, so I just chose to do whenever I encountered pitches that would not fit into the tempered system, I used a rounding off, and actually not only in as for the pitches, but also for the rhythms, I did use a certain degree of rounding off, because it would otherwise start looking. This piece would have started looking terrible, really terrible to read. Already, the way that I notated it now, I have the feeling that it looks much more difficult or complex than it should actually sound like. It should actually sound like very, very organic, and it should not sound difficult at all. And actually, Halifax, what I heard from them in rehearsal, they do a great job doing that. But okay, that's as you say, you have to make decisions there, and I've used similar processes in an earlier piece, which is a bass clarinet duo, which is called Leichte Überlappungen, and there I did. In many sections, I did use microtones, and as it is a duo, that was a choice that was for me easier to make, and I'm also very happy with that decision. So I'm not really I don't think dogmatically about it. I don't think it has to be very exact microtonally. All these proportions must be there until several digits after the comma. I think it's totally fine to make to take a decision. Okay, I'm rounding off until to the next tempered tone.
Thank you. I also want to add. I mean, besides just writing microtones and expecting a very accurate result. I mean, also some composers just write everything, I mean, accurately, and then they do not expect anything at all. And sometimes they actually expect let's say, these faulty results, kind of not everything in the right place, but that also creates a texture. That's also a possibility, I think. That's why I asked you the question, because I understand you are looking for the performance part, and I can understand that works very, very good. But at the same time, that is also a possibility that for example, I'm personally more interested in that part, the faulty parts, all the mistakes and what is just coming out of them. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I do. Yeah, thank you for your answer.
Any other questions or comments?
Would you like to announce if there will be an online premiere of the piece, or is it going to be in a concert hall?
I would be delighted to let you know about any online performance of the piece once it will happen. So yes, I would like that if you could make that known to the participants today. Would be nice. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like all we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you once again for the wonderful lecture. Also, I thank everyone who participated in this. So just a brief announcement, just please follow Bilgimusic on social media to be in the know about these series of seminars, but it's going to be regularly on the same hour, on the same day. And thank you all for
I
this.
would also like to say thank you to you all for attending.
So
Thank you.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thanks for being here.
So I'm expecting a mail from you with the document, and I'll forward it to the department and the participants if possible. So
Great, great, thanks. Yeah, I will send all the documents that I showed you today.
have a good day then.
You too.
We thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Bye bye from Amsterdam.